to Ducks Morning Brew. Another morning. Good morning, Ducks game day. And a special one at that. I'm not even going to get slowly into it today. We're going to cut right to the chase. This could be one of the most important days in Ducks history in a long time. And ever, honestly. And the stars are aligning, the stats are aligning for what could be a special day in Anaheim as the Ducks take on the Washington Capitals tonight. Our first topic that we will get into is Ryan Getzlaf, obviously 1 point away from 1,000. And the Ducks, ironically enough, are 1 win away from 1,000 wins. They have an all-time record of 999, 838, and 290. So just what a moment that would be. I mean, now knowing this, I've mentioned it, they'll probably lose, but it would be such a cool moment for Getzlaf to hit 1,000 points at home while the Ducks also win their 1,000th game. It's one of those, storybook moments that kind of live on in the history books. So hope he does that, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. I know you're probably reading this and you're waiting for me to get to this, but the second topic we have here is it time to trade John Gibson? No, this isn't my own speculation. We're actually going to look at an article from NBC Sports from James O'Brien where he looks at the possibility of the Ducks selling high on John Gibson and whether they should stick to their rebuild plan, and including that in selling John Gibson. And we finally get an explanation from Dallas Eakins on why Trevor Zegras was benched for the final 10 minutes of the last game, despite being on a hat trick and the Ducks having a couple chances at the empty net. Eric Stevens put out a great article in The Athletic, as always, and had some quotes from Dallas Eakins where he talks about why that decision was made. But we're kicking off with Ryan Getzlaf. It's all about the captain today. Big moment potentially for the Ducks and for Ryan Getzlaf as one of the biggest moments in franchise history, honestly. Getzlaf 1 point away, as I mentioned, from hitting 1,000, would be the first player in franchise history to do so, past Teemu Selanne for the all-time lead, I think a couple weeks ago now, and has just been on an absolute tear this season and has been, outside of Troy Terry, really the main reason for the Ducks' success this year. The two of them have formed an, I don't want to say unlikely duo, but it gives you the feels of Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf duo from back in the day, and it's just funny that Troy Terry's name is fairly close to Corey Perry's name, so get that one in there a bit. But yeah, Ryan Getzlaf tied for 10th in league scoring with 1 goal and 16 assists, a classic Ryan Getzlaf stat line. His 16 assists are tied for second in the league with Leon Draisaitl, and the only two players to have more are the other two star players in Edmonton, in Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But man, there's only so much you can say about Ryan Getzlaf, and he's just been the player you could hope for at this point in his career. I know everybody thought, Corey Perry was clearly on a downturn, and he is my favorite player of all time. Just because of, where I'm from and him playing for the London Knights, it's hard to get apart from that. But Ryan Getzlaf looked like he was on the downturn in his career, almost got traded at the deadline last year. And for him to come out and do this in what could be the final season of his career, it's special for Ducks fans to be able to witness this again. And, another stat to throw out there too, Ryan Getzlaf is second on the team in shots on goal. Now, it hasn't accounted for pucks in the back of the net. He's only got 1, but only Adam Henrique has more, and he's got 48 shots on goal. So it's a bit of a resurgence for Ryan Getzlaf for this season. But it's going to be a special night tonight. If Ryan Getzlaf does hit 1,000 points, we will be live with a special post-game show on Twitch after the game tonight. We planned it for a while. We're happy that it kind of hopefully lines up with a home game and potentially the Ducks' 1,000th win. But just a special night for everybody involved. And I imagine if he does hit 1,000 points tonight, it does line up with a home game on Thursday where the Ducks take on the Carolina Hurricanes, where we would likely see a special ceremony, just like we did when Ryan Getzlaf passed Teemu Selanne. We saw it the game after that, or the next home game after that, where they did a bit of a special presentation. Tamer was there wearing a Getzlaf jersey. It was just a really cool moment, so I'm sure we'll see something like that again once Ryan Getzlaf hits 1,000 points and the Ducks have their next home game after that. But let's have our fingers crossed for tonight. It's going to be a fun game to watch nonetheless. The Ducks are pushing for an 8-game winning streak, which is just ridiculous, something we never thought we'd be talking about at all this season, let alone this early, only 15 or so games into the season. So it's a special moment, and we'll have to take it in for what it is and remember this moving forward. All right, now to some more speculation. We're away from the special moments. We're back to the speculation because it wouldn't be the Forever Mighty podcast without a little bit of speculation about who's going to get traded or signed or anything like that. But John Gibson's name makes it into the headlines again. Nothing really in terms of rumors and him wanting out or teams being interested. And we've seen in the past, I think Buffalo is inquired about his availability when the Eichel trade talks were going on. Pittsburgh has been sniffing around John Gibson. Obviously, he's a Pittsburgh native, and then that's a rumor that's kind of persisted over the last few years with Pittsburgh not really being able to find a suitable kind of candidate to replace Marc-Andre Fleury. Matt Murray did it for a bit. Tristan Jarry's doing it right now, but they are looking and desperate for an elite goaltender to kind of finish out the last bit of their, I don't want to call it dynasty, but their run with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. So, of course, John Gibson's going to be linked there. But the article we're referencing is from James O'Brien at NBC Sports, and it's not so much a speculation piece that John Gibson's going to get traded. It's more so talking about why the Ducks should look at trading John Gibson if they are truly looking to accelerate the rebuild of this team. And, we've had this conversation before about, going full rebuild and moving out, obviously guys like Raquel and Manson because they're unrestricted free agents, looking at Hampus Lindholm as well, potentially Cam Fowler, any of the older veterans on this team. And I think the guy who carries the most value, especially the way he started the season, is John Gibson. And that's the argument that James O'Brien makes, is that right now, arguably, John Gibson's value has not been higher than it has been over the last 3 seasons. He's always started well and then tailed off because the Ducks haven't been able to keep up any consistent level of decent play. With the Ducks on a 7-game winning streak and John Gibson posting just unbelievable numbers over that stretch, he has a 1.65 goals against average and a 943 save percentage with 6 wins over his last 6 starts on the Ducks' 7-game winning streak. So he's been arguably the best goaltender in the league over that stretch. And there's a lot of eyes on John Gibson. There always will be, and there's a lot of teams interested. But when you think, the Avalanche, they just got Darcy Kemper, but it's been up and down for them. Obviously, the Penguins are in the mix. There's always a few teams that would be able to have interest in John Gibson. And one of the main things, too, that James O'Brien brings up is if you're a team who thinks John Gibson is an elite goaltender in the National Hockey League, his $6.4 million cap hit is a bargain. And I know I'm among one of those that thinks he's an elite goaltender. I think the rest of our crew on the podcast also believes he's an elite goaltender, and that cap hit that the Ducks signed him to long-term at $6.4 million is a bargain for any team. And, John Gibson's not at an age where, you're worried about him, falling off at any point soon. I think he's got 3, 4, maybe even 5 years at the prime of his career, and you think, what could this guy do on a solid competitive team? We saw flashes of it when the Ducks were near the end of their competitive years. And then obviously now the last 5 or 6 years have been kind of mired in inconsistency. But John Gibson is a true Vezina candidate on a competitive team. And there would be a ton of teams interested in John Gibson. So, yeah, the question does become, is it time to trade John Gibson? And I think it's such a tough question to answer. I know it's a bit of a cop-out. But with the way the Ducks are playing right now, it's a lot of fun, and I don't want to, be the Debbie Downer and hamper on what the future of this team could be. But there's no way the Ducks are going to win every game for the rest of the year, and they beat a lot of teams that they should have. These next 2 games against Washington and Carolina are going to be real testaments to their ability to compete for a playoff spot this year in a really weak Pacific Division. The Ducks need to decide on what direction they're going to go. And we got a little bit of signs from that in Jeff Solomon's quotes, where he said that he's not going to stray away from the rebuild plan. It just depends on how committed they are. Do I think it's time to trade John Gibson? Not necessarily. I think you should be looking at what teams would be willing to pay for him. And if the right offer comes along, I think you have to take it. Where this franchise is right now, I think if you can get, a first-round pick, a team's top prospect, or a highly rated prospect, and a few more younger pieces, I think you go for it. Now, you look at Colorado as an example. If you can get Sam Girard and Newhook in their first-round pick, you get a top-forward young defenseman who's locked down to a really team-friendly contract, only $5 million. You get a potential, 1A, 2B center in Alex Newhook, and a first-round pick in an upcoming draft. It's speculation on what a deal could potentially look like, but I think if you can get a package like that, it's something you definitely have to explore. But let's just enjoy it for now. Let's just enjoy John Gibson being an Anaheim Duck, the Ducks being on a 7-game winning streak, and him playing some of the best hockey in the league. And the last topic here, the one that we have to get to and we had to get back to. I mentioned this briefly on yesterday's show after the Ducks win on Sunday, that Trevor Zegras had a great game, a 3-point game, his breakout game of the season. And going into the third period, he was on hat-trick watch. The broadcast put up he was mic'd up for that game, Zegras was, and they had a really funny interaction with him saying he was starving for a hat-trick, and he's never had a hat-trick in his entire career. And we were all wanting it. Obviously, we want to see, the Ducks' best young player, any player, but especially Zegras, get a hat-trick if he could. And Zegras was benched for basically the last 10 minutes of the game, including the final 3 minutes where Vancouver pulled in the goaltender, the Ducks had an empty net. Usually that's where you see a player, especially a young player, get out there for the final few minutes to try and get that hat-trick and get his first career hat-trick. We've seen it in the past with guys, I think Delorier and a few, like Derek Grant, when they've been on 2 goals, they've been thrown out there in the final minutes of the period in a close game even to finish off their hat-trick. So disappointing there to not see Zegras given that chance to do that. And the question was, why at the end of the game? We were waiting for answers, waiting to hear from Dallas Eakins on why that decision had been made. And it kind of mired, a win that had given the Ducks 7 wins in a row in speculation and disappointment on why he wasn't given the chance. And Eric Stevens, as always, puts out a great article where he talked to Dallas Eakins, and it was more of a review of the Ducks' 7-game win streak, and they talked about a bunch of different things in the article, so make sure you check that out. But there was the question asked on why Zegras was benched for the final 10 minutes of the game, and I'll read the quote here, but make sure you check out the article. Eakins said, "But the thing is that we're about team, and I would love that young man to put one in an empty net and have a hat trick, but we want to get really comfortable locking down these games with certain guys. If we're down in a game, hey, Z's going to get a lot of ice. Right now in his career, we've got other guys that their jobs are to lock this down, and they did a hell of a job of it. The last 5-6 minutes was impressive what we did there." I get it. I understand it. I get there's certain guys you want to lock down the game and be comfortable doing that as you progress in the season and hopefully compete for a playoff spot. You want to have these guys that you can throw over the boards and they're comfortable in that situation to lock down a game. I think, though, there are certain circumstances like this one where you have a young player like that on a hat trick that has shown he's not a detriment defensively, that you make an exception for that moment. It's not going to throw off your progress. It's not going to make you have to start from scratch and square one with the guys that you normally shut down with. Take one guy off that, whether it's Grant or Henrique or whoever, and throw Trevor Zegras over the boards and make him the high forward because he's a great pressing forward. Put him at the point, press the opposition defenders, and be the breakout guy if the Ducks win possession to get him that hat trick. I don't see why you can't do both and have a shutdown group that you want to go with. But for certain circumstances like this, or if Zegras is on a hat trick, or Drysdale, whoever, any player, not even just the young kids, if Terry's on a hat trick, Getzlaf's on a hat trick, throw them out there, even if they're not part of that normal group, and give them a chance. And the thing for me too is it doesn't help Zegras, right? Yes, we know he's out there for offense, and Eakins mentions, if we're down a goal, he's going to play. For sure. He's one of the best offensive players we have. But he also has to get used to that other side of the game. And maybe he'll never be the number one shutdown option, but that's a perfect moment to say, hey, like in this circumstance, we're going to see what you can do. And it's not like the numbers for him have been bad defensively. In the month of November, he's 8th on the team in shots allowed per 60 and 1st in expected goals allowed per 60. So he's been one of the better defensive forwards for the Ducks in the month of November, which, yes, is a small sample size, and he doesn't get put in as many tough situations as some of the top shutdown players on this team. But he's shown when he is out there, he can get it done. And I just think it's one of those moments you make an exception for, because we all would have loved to see Trevor Zegras get the hat trick, and even if he didn't, at least get the shot to do it properly, to get out there and get a chance to score on the empty net. And even when the Ducks do score on the empty net, they score another goal after that, and it's the fourth line that's out there again, defending a 2-goal lead with 30 seconds to go. At least put him out there for that chance, that maybe Vancouver pulls the goaltender again, or you can get a shot like Sam Steele did, a tip off a Nick Delorier shot, I believe, to extend the lead for the Ducks. So I think that is definitely something that I'm a bit disappointed that Dallas Eakins has this explanation for and didn't give Zegras the chance to do so. But, hopefully next time it comes around, he gets a chance and he'll be given the chance to get that hat trick, or he just gets it the natural way, because, we hope this is a breakout game for Zegras, and going into tonight's game against Washington, hope to see another big performance from him, and heading into Carolina, obviously later in the week, they're going to need these top performances from guys like Zegras and Terry and Getzlaf to get things going. But that will do it for today's edition of Ducks Morning Brew. A lot of awesome topics to talk about today, a lot of excitement heading into tonight's game. If Getzlaf does hit 1,000, make sure to head over to our Twitch channel after tonight's game. We'll have a post-game show with likely me and Steve and potentially Pat. They're just going to see who's available for that, but we'll break down everything that happened in the game and talk about, obviously, Ryan Getzlaf hitting 1,000 points, and hopefully the Ducks also hitting 1,000 wins. As always, appreciate you guys coming out and checking this out in the morning, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Take care, guys.